I'm Jolene Wynn, and this is the Porn Addict's Wife podcast, episode number 172, Conversations with Rob, Attraction. I used to think of myself as the wife of a porn addict, but I do not think of myself that way anymore, and you don't have to either. In this podcast, I am going to teach you how to manage your mind and your emotions so that you can stop living your life around your husband's pornography addiction. I am going to teach you how to stop being the victim and how to conquer his pornography addiction, even if he never does. I'm Jolene Wynn. I am a certified life coach, and I am a member of the LDS faith and the wife of a former porn addict. And this is a podcast for the Porn Addict's Wife. Hello, my ladies. I am so excited to bring you today's podcast episode. This is something that Rob and I have been thinking about for a long time, and we're going to share with you a little bit about what's been going on over the last couple of months, over the last 9 months, and that I've alluded to a lot in the podcast. And today we're talking a little bit about it. But before that, I wanted to let you guys know of a couple of things that are happening. Number one, I am doing Coach Week this week, and I would love for you guys to come join me. So today, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of this week, I am doing a series of free coaching calls. And these are just available to you to come get some one-on-one help from me. You can bring me your questions, bring me something you've learned here on the podcast or something that you're struggling with, and I will be able to help you work through whatever it is that is where you feel like you're kind of feeling stuck. So you can go to my website, jolenewynn.com, and you can go to the Coach Week tab. You can register, and that will give you access not only to the live calls, but also to the replays. So I know there are so many of you that if you work during the day and you can't make it, then please sign up anyway so that I can send you the replay. You will have access to the replays. But I would encourage you again to come live if you can. Again, it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, August 28th through the 30th at 11 a.m. Eastern. And that way you can get one-on-one help from me. I am the coach that's on the call. You can come anonymously. You can just type it in. You can leave your camera off. Whatever level of comfort you have on these calls, absolutely, these are for you. You can even just come listen in. And if you're just curious about coaching, if you don't even know what it is, then come join. It's free and there's no obligation, so come on in. Also, to those who do come, I have an exclusive offer that is only for those who register for this call. That is something you guys won't want to miss. The other thing that I wanted to let you guys know is that I've been looking at my program and trying to figure out a way to make it even more personal and to work with my clients even more. And I have figured out the best way to do that. And I'm very excited to let you guys know. And it's important to know because it's going to affect when you can join. Okay. Right now, the doors are open to join my coaching program. You can join. You have lifetime access once you join, but the doors are going to close on Thursday, August 31st at midnight Eastern Standard Time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to close them so that I can then focus 100% on the clients inside my program, give them more of my attention, not be focused on selling, not be focused on all of those things so that those clients who are there are able to be better served by me. So you are going to want to make sure if you've been thinking about joining my coaching program, now is the time to join. Again, the doors are open now today, but they are closing Thursday, August 31st at midnight Eastern Standard Time. After that, then I don't know when I'm going to open the doors back up. And so you are going to want to get in if you have been thinking about it. And I am so excited about this because I have some things that I'm going to be bringing into my coaching program. Again, this is a lifetime access group. So once you join, you are in for life. Nothing expires. There's no annual fee. You don't have to renew. There's no membership. Everything is all included. You can either pay in full upfront or you can do a payment plan, whichever one works better for you. And you are in. You get access to all of my online material plus all of my coaching calls. I do coaching calls twice a week with my clients, and you get to do work with me one-on-one so that I can help you apply all of these tools that you're learning on the podcast. So all of these tools that you feel like you're making progress, we are going to make even more. And if you feel like you're stuck anywhere, then I would again encourage you to come and join so that I can help you work through this. And that is the beauty of coaching. Is my job is to help you make even more exponential growth. It's taking the progress that you're already making from the podcast, taking everything that you're loving about it and just multiplying it so that you can just start leaping forward and just start making progress like you've never seen. So again, you can go to my website, jolenewynn.com. You can sign up today for lifetime access, but make sure that you join before Thursday at midnight because that is when the doors are going to close. All right. So again, here's my conversation with Rob. Thank you guys so much. I love you all. And I'll hope you enjoy this episode. Hello, my ladies. I am very excited to be on the podcast today. I asked Rob. Rob and I both have felt over the last couple of weeks that we wanted to talk to you guys about what we have been learning over the last 9 months. And it is time.
We've actually been thinking about this for months.
Yeah.
Actually, that we would share some of the things we've been learning over the last 9 months. And we might not have all the answers for you, but we have a lot of topics to discuss.
We do. And one of the big things that I think we're going to talk about today is really Rob wants to talk a lot about some of the effects of the pornography addiction and how that's kind of trickled into other areas, and we'll cover all of those. But one of the big things that we're going to talk about today is attraction and attraction to other women, and we're going to just hit a lot of different things today, and just bear with us because
this might be all over the place.
All over the place, ladies.
It's just a conversation.
But we really have a point. I want to share this with you because it's really important to me to share with you why these tools that I teach are so important to master, why it's so vital, so crucial to work on yourself and master the skills of processing emotions and managing your mind, because there are always going to be circumstances that happen in your life, whether your husband is addicted to pornography, whether he's been in recovery for 15 years, whatever comes up, when you have the skills to handle it, you can make it through anything. And that is something I have just felt so strongly about. It's just been reinforced to me over the last year. And I just want to share with you what we have been going through so that you can see, one, that I still do this and that it's totally okay to have feelings and process thoughts and manage your mind, and that it can be done, and that when you do it, it can be even more beautiful on the other side of it. And Rob really wanted to talk to the men for a moment.
I guess so. Well, I have talked in other podcasts. I believe in a little idea, and it served me very well, even though it brings up a lot of difficult conversations, is that in a relationship as close as marriage, your spouse already knows. They might not actually know, and they may be surprised to find out information, but they know subconsciously. They can feel it on the other side of the relationship, and it shows up in what you choose to say and how you say it. It shows up in the time that you spend with them and the time you don't spend with them. It shows up in the attention that you give your wife. And that relationship will feel different when pornography is in it. Mm-hmm. It feels different when it's out of it. And something we've learned as well is that relationship feels different when attraction to other women is in it or not in it. Mm-hmm. And again, it's not that they know the details or the facts, but just from the subconscious or the conscious feelings that you have, your wife knows. They already know. It's too close of a relationship. And not that they actually know, but it affects
you can feel it.
The relationship.
Sure.
It affects the relationship. And so that's really what we want to talk about. And the number one thing is just becoming aware. And that's why I'm talking about this podcast, is just bring up the awareness. And that doesn't always solve problems by bringing up awareness, but brings them up to the problem. Mm-hmm. But then recognizing and admitting that it is a problem is a big factor as well, which all the men listening to this podcast might disagree with me.
In fact, Rob
most will, and
also
I disagreed with myself
for a very
until
long time.
A few months ago when I had a perspective shift and change, and actually chose to do it on purpose. And as I and then it became a shift for me, knowing that this wasn't working in my relationship, but also in my brain, and then seeing the result of the change it's hard to believe it until you see it, type of thing. But there is a difference. There's a difference between pornography in your relationship and pornography not in your relationship. And there's a difference between attraction to other women in your relationship and not attraction to other women. Mm-hmm. Now, these definitions are difficult to define.
True.
It's going to be different for each person, and it's going to be a different emotional feeling and different idea, because there is, it's hard to put a full definition out there what we're talking about when we talk about attraction to other women. And I bring that up just because we've had many conversations as well about what that means and what that is.
Go ahead. Maybe you could give an example.
Well, I want to talk about the experience of after effects of pornography for a moment.
Okay.
And so pornography addiction creates certain patterns of behavior and thinking and emotional processing and feeling that we just tend to go to in order to deal with our emotions, deal with our problems, deal with whatever we're trying to avoid. And then those patterns tend to trickle into other areas of our life, and we're not even aware of them.
Right. Your brain is used to responding in a certain way, and so it'll take that and take that same pattern and apply it to a different area. Mm-hmm. Rather than pornography, like it's like, oh, when I feel this, then I go to pornography. Rob totally conquered that, figured out what the root was, worked it all out, let that go, and it was gone. But the brain had said, oh, okay, this is how we deal with stuff.
But
and went and,
not even so much that, but during that time, exactly. Yeah. But during that time, I came up with other things that then I dealt with behaviors that I don't love and appreciate.
Right.
So one of that is I'll talk about some of these, right? Like some of these questions came up because of questions we started to have, Jolene and I. Jolene would ask me questions about things that other women in the coaching program were asking, and then she'd ask me these questions, and I'd give my answer for them. But so one is like fantasy, right? Fantasizing about other women, fantasizing about also affairs, like desire for an affair, wanting to be with another woman intimately, but also emotionally. And I guess that's both, right? There you go. And then the attraction in general. So these are some big, heavy topics, discussions that we talked about, and I found an awareness that I wasn't fully aware of some of these common occurrences with a pornography addiction, right? It trickles out of the computer, out of the phone, into the real world, into your emotional relationship patterns and behaviors. Now, that begins to affect your actual relationship, and really it's just because it's there. It's just because your attention and emotional energy has been given, even if it's just a small moment or a small percentage of the time. That's energy not given to your spouse. That's attention not given to your spouse.
Right, and it doesn't even have to be taking any action, right? It's not, oh, I'm attracted to this woman, and
now I've been texting, now
we're texting and calling and holding hands, or touching her innocently, or whatever.
Meeting
right?
up
It doesn't.
Places.
It doesn't actually mean having a physical affair necessarily, or enacting out a fantasy. It's even, as Rob was saying, it's like that energy of the desire for it. That is energy that you are not putting toward your wife. And there's an effect, you can feel it, right? Like it affects the relationship.
Yeah, and I guess for a long time I didn't see it as a problem because it wasn't affecting my life. Right? It wasn't affecting my actions.
Right.
It wasn't
one of the
affecting
big things he said is like,
behavior.
Well, it's not a problem because I'm not doing anything.
I've never done anything.
Right.
Like it's just all a thought or an emotion, and then and most of the time I don't even want those emotions, and I'm trying to figure out how to ignore from them. But then there's the part that the pattern of behavior was there to use it as an emotional distraction, right? Jolene talks about buffering your emotions, running away from them, not looking at them. And so creating these positive attraction, fantasy, affair those type of they're not positive emotions, but they can feel
they feel good. Yes.
And using those to distract from emotional to distance yourself from your relationship when wanting to create a distraction or even a disengagement, right? It's creating that emotional buffer per se. Now, most of the reasons actually were not directly related with Jolene in our relationship, but difficult times in a relationship bring up undesirable or like difficult emotion,
right? And
then that can then go to previous patterns to distract and buffer and find things that do feel good. So most of the initial the roots of this, just like the root of pornography, was internal and personal. It wasn't about the other person, but rather it was about an internal belief that I had about myself that once worked through, that's what I was ignoring. That's what I was buffering from. So,
but it's been fascinating because it was all kind of wrapped up in all of these very socially acceptable thoughts, socially acceptable beliefs, right? Like attraction to the opposite sex is very common and very normal. And our society has certain beliefs that kind of perpetuate this idea that it's completely fine. And so when it's wrapped up and you adopt those beliefs and you accept that, then it's expected, right? Totally expected. Then it's difficult to even to think that it's a problem. And if it's not having a physical, tangible effect on your marriage, then it's very easy to ignore or to pretend like it's not a problem.
Right. And honestly, these little seeds, these little roots, I'm not saying this is, maybe I shouldn't say this, but like those would have grown over time. It would have become eventually what could have hurt our marriage, what could have broke our marriage if I had allowed those to grow or just stay there without looking at them.
Rob is suggesting that simply because of after becoming aware of all of it and all the work we've done over the last year is we have seen as he tracked it, just looking back, how it grew, right? And how it kind of built a little bit.
For the men, it's kind of like the pornography addiction. Like it grows over time. And
evolves, develops.
Because it takes more of the positive feeling in order to distract from the
negative emotion,
the pain.
Right.
So, first of all, one pushback, and even I became aware of this even while I was coaching other men, and even in myself, is like what to do with attraction, right? It's there, especially with pornography use, and then it shows up outside of the phone, outside of the computer, right? And so for a lot of times, it was beneficial for me to treat it as this is just fine. This is not a problem. I get to choose how to respond to this. And so I spent many years in that type of paradigm thinking of this is how my body responds and I will choose how I respond to that, if that makes sense. And that seemed like a very neutral way to treat the attraction. What I became more aware of looking at it, was that attraction to other women had a lot more to do with what I was distracting myself from in those moments than it was just my body responding as an attraction to another woman, right? And in fact, that there was some choice or ability to choose behind that, which I don't think we teach that to boys.
I've been trying to teach Rob this forever. Okay, I'm just interjecting. Okay, so when we first started going through all of this 9 months ago, one of the biggest things that I have felt in my life, and I have a lot of thoughts, ladies, you know, that not everybody has, and I have always, since I was a teenager, hated the idea that I was taught that like, all right, well, boys just can't control their attraction, and so it's up to the women to just, make sure that they are always doing things right so that the boys aren't attracted and not having thoughts they can't control. And I've always pushed back on that. And to me, I've always believed that attraction is a choice. I am only attracted to Rob. And I choose that. And so it's always been something that that I have felt is a choice, because attraction is a feeling, right, ladies? So if attraction is a feeling, it's coming from a thought, and your thoughts are always something that you can choose, and you can learn how to choose them. And so when we first started going through this, Rob did not like that thought. He'd pushed back on that a lot.
Like, it's not your experience.
It's not your
experience.
That's you don't know. You're not a boy. You don't understand. It's biological. I have a degree in biology. I can tell you why it's all. But it's just like,
I didn't say that.
No, you didn't. He did not say that. But it was very much, Rob pushed back on this idea that attraction is a choice for a very long time. And
it was because I couldn't see it.
Yeah.
Right? In my experience, in my paradigm, I couldn't see it. I couldn't figure it out how to make it a choice. It was just a natural response for me.
Mm-hmm. But that's a very nice way of resisting responsibility, right? If it's just something that happens to you, that's a nice thought, but then you have no control over it. Then there's nothing you can do, which sounds lovely if you want to keep it. Now, Rob did so much work, and I can't.
Isn't it nicer to control it, though? Like, at the end of the day, like, to be fully in control of it. And one of the nice benefits of that is then you get to choose 100% where that attraction goes, which was a big part, especially at the beginning.
Yeah.
Was I had a lot of difficult emotions, allowing myself to feel attracted to Jolene in moments that then I would feel guilty about. Which is kind of
stupid. Isn't it shocking? You guys know us so well, okay? But I can't tell you how many times I was like, Rob, your brain is so dumb. Like, of all the things that your brain thinks is okay to be attracted to, I'm not on that list. Like, can we just rehearse our history a little bit? Doesn't it seem a little bit backwards? Should you feel guilty for other things?
And I should be a nice husband, and I should be
not check out your wife, because that's inappropriate.
And stare at.
I was like, I'm literally the one person you're supposed to be able to do that. Apparently. So it's taken some time, but we're here now.
Anyway, so call me a nerd or whatever you want to call me. But anyways, it's really good to, I guess, open that up, right? To be in 100% control of it and then choose where you want it to go. And honestly, it's more beautiful. Oh, here's some fun facts.
Oh, great.
For the men.
Oh, good.
These are fun facts for me. I don't know if they're real facts or not, but one of these things that was fascinating is I was reading a Wikipedia article about different thinking, and pre-Victorian age, since the Victorian age, we've had this idea that men are just attracted to all the women, and that the woman needs to be the most attractive peacock, right, to attract and keep the man at home. Otherwise, he'll wander and go find another woman.
And ladies, you know this. It's generally then like, well, what'd she do? It must be. That's one of the thoughts that I hear often is like, well, then it must be my fault. And this is a thought I used to have, was like, well, maybe there's something I can do, right? We think it's about us, and maybe if I change something, lose weight, change my hair, put out more, buy lingerie, maybe if I'm more exotic in bed, that maybe it must be my fault. Like, if he's looking elsewhere, it's because I'm not doing my job to make him attracted enough to me.
So Western civilization, pre-Victorian, so like European, it was the reverse.
I think we should go back to that.
It took a while, and but it was the reverse, where women would wander if the man wasn't taking care of her enough.
Yeah, if he wasn't making himself
physically and intimately, but also like the best mate, and like the woman was the one that would wander, and the woman was the one that needed like extra protections, or she would go have the affair. That's just fascinating, because if you go study paradigms of like culture, it shifts all the time. Look about beauty; it shifts constantly. Like, even in our lifetime,
absolutely,
beauty in the media has shifted.
Yeah, from 90s, super skinny to like Kourtney Kardashian
and if you look back in like art history, like some of those arts, it's like beautiful, extra rolls and heavy, and like, because then you were wealthy and had, and I think of some other cultures, even like today, like they want their women a little bit bigger and well fed, or whatever the word is. Sorry if that's insulting to somebody, but I just think that's
It's fascinating to see how
Fascinating.
it shifts, and it's all
And how you're raised in your culture
perpetuated
is
in your culture.
where
right.
your beauty goes to.
But even Rob was like, no, this is just it. This is just biological. I can't control this. This just happens. And it wasn't until he...
Okay, here's my other fun fact for the gentleman.
I'm excited.
I think this is a fun fact. This is a great fact. Monogamous relationships typically have more sex than men who aren't in a long-term relationship.
I knew that.
Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah.
I think it's great news.
Well, most of these men listening would think that they are in a monogamous relationship. So that's what's fascinating too. It's like, what do you want your monogamous relationship to look like? Because monogamy to me isn't just not having an affair. Like, that's what it, I think, is defined as. It's like, well, you only have one sexual partner. Well, technically, you also only have ever had one sexual partner, which is me, right? So it's like, but the difference is even, again, just that energy, giving it to other women makes the difference in the relationship.
Yeah, so we're not talking about, like, letter of the law, but, like, this
spirit.
is like a spirit, like it's a church saying,
yeah.
right? Like, you know, you could, like, write it down as a definition, but, like, what's the meaning behind it, and what's like the purpose behind it, and, like, what more fantastic of a relationship we have when we're 100% focused on each other. And that is the reason to look at this, the reason to try to become aware of it, and to push back on some of these cultural norms that we've been handed and given, and look at and say, well, men are just going to be more visual.
Men are more visual. How many
just,
of you have said this to me via text or Instagram messaging or anything, email?
Or men wander.
Men are just attracted to other women. It's just part of life.
Got to keep them, you know, otherwise they'll go have an affair, or they just can't control it. It's just biological. And I think we're so ingrained with this, especially as men, like, that's just how it is. Like,
yeah, that's how you were taught.
You know, that's how I was taught, even in a very respectful, very church Christian focused, very, like, even in that environment, I'm taught those same premises. I'm taught those same ideas. And it doesn't, it's a belief system, just like all the other belief systems that we run into.
Which a belief system, ladies, is not something outside of your control. A belief system is just a collection of thoughts, which is what Rob figured out too. Like, your belief system, the things that you adopt, you can choose these. So I have always chosen not to be okay with the idea that men are just attracted to all women. I've never been okay with it. I was like, everybody in society can agree with that. That's fine. I disagree. I think it's crap. I think it's bogus. I don't like it. And I don't agree with it. And I, coming from a religious background, I firmly believe, I said, I don't think God, if he intended, as I believe he did, for marriage to be between one man and one woman, then I don't believe he would create us in a way where that wasn't totally 100% possible to just give yourself to that person, which is what I believe. That's what I believe that religiously. I believe that God gave us the ability to give all of ourselves physically, emotionally to our spouse. And so that has always hit me the wrong way, is that, no, I believe that there has to be choice in this, because choice is what God believes in above all else. He gives us choice. He gives us agency. That's one of the beautiful things about all the tools that I teach, is that's what I see is the full representation of agency, is the ability to choose how you think, how you feel, how you respond to those emotions, what you create in your life. That is the true representation of all of agency. And to me, this is just another way where we get to choose. And it's difficult. Sure, there's a lot of work going into how to choose whether or not you are in control of your attraction. But believing that it's just something that just happens, that God made you in a way where you have no control over it, I've never agreed with that.
Most men are probably like, yeah, that's nice
fine,
news, but
and I'm a woman, and I don't...
Well, it's not really bothering me. You know, that's like, it's not really affecting it. And I would just question that just a little bit of, like...
Well, how do you feel like it affected you?
It didn't, right? Yeah. It didn't affect me. Like, I still had a fine marriage. I still had a good... Like, none of it was needing to be brought up. It just brought up a lot of pain and a lot of tears and a lot of hurt and a lot of difficult evenings and difficult months. And it's a long time.
It was a long time.
But it was completely worth it.
But why did you bring it up in the first place, right? Like, so for so many years,
well, it's because I knew it was there. Because I knew it was there. And because it's a lie to yourself that it's not a problem. That's what it is. Until it finally did show up and I had to look at it. Because it showed up
in a way that you couldn't ignore.
That I couldn't ignore. Because all of a sudden, the feelings that were just kind of in the background, I could ignore them, showed up a lot more in my face. You know, it was like, oh, wow, this is now here, right? I'd ignored it for so long, all of a sudden it became something I couldn't ignore. So when that comes, then you're gonna address it.
Right.
Or you keep ignoring it. Mm-hmm. And if you keep ignoring it, then eventually you start taking actions and doing things that you wouldn't want to do. You wouldn't normally do.
Right.
But because these new emotions, these emotions that have been lingering and not taken looked at and not taken care of, eventually lead to, well, it's not inevitable, but it's where it goes, right? It's like if you feed this,
it can
feed this emotion, feed this pattern of behavior, eventually your emotions will lead you to your actions, right? The thoughts that are subconscious that are driving these emotions are going to lead to the actions. Eventually they'll show up,
right?
Because we know this about pornography too, like willpower in your emotional processing lasts so long, right? You can shove it down for so long.
Something you tried for lots of years.
Yeah, just shove it down.
Willpower.
Right knuckle it, willpower it through, and but eventually looking at the emotion, looking at the beliefs.
Also self-judgment. That was something else you tried. Like just feeling guilty about it. Just feeling like, this shouldn't be here. This is terrible. In the same way that you did with pornography.
It's the same steps that it takes to overcome a pornography addiction, is to look at attraction, to look at fantasies, to look at affairs or desire for affairs. Like, it's the same tools that are replicated, and guess what? It gets down to the same stuff. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not the exact same, but it's the same core beliefs that are hiding from childhood and hiding from moments that have defined you, that you believe about yourself for whatever reason. And it's looking at those and deciding if they're still serving you. And that's the beauty. That's why actually doing this work and even questioning or becoming aware, why is it so beneficial? It's more progress. It's more growth. It's more change into who you really want to become. I mean, if you want to ruin your relationship and want to not have a closeness with your spouse, then you continue, right?
Mm-hmm. And that's the same for the ladies too. I mean, it's the same. It's like, are you having...
Just a second. I just want to say that, like, that's for... We just got to be really careful that this doesn't... I don't want this to turn into like, well, Rob and Jolene said this, and now you need to start looking at this differently. It can't... It's not a judgment. It's not a point of finger. It's a opportunity to progress if you're ready for it.
If you choose.
It's
your choice.
It's your choice, and it doesn't inevitably mean the other way, like I'm saying.
It doesn't inevitably mean if your husband listens to this podcast. If you want your husband to listen to this podcast, he never does, and he's watching porn right now, you'll be like,
and he says,
Rob thinks you're just going to have it, and see, now you're just going to keep that way, and now you're going to have an affair. That's not what we're saying.
I just am offering this as an opportunity for men who are in a position or place, who have been working on a pornography addiction, who feel like they're making progress and feel like they're in a good place, to then also open up to the awareness and use these opportunities to grow in other areas. And part of that is the relationship, that you and your spouse, to have a better, stronger relationship. And putting 100% of that subconscious thoughts and programming and beliefs and rewriting those to a way that actually connect you closer, that's a win. That is what I want. And that's a win. That's worth the work. That's worth the effort. The result is beautiful. It brings we're in a stronger place. I told Jillian this before. I was like, if you get busier and lots of big things happen in our life, like that would have been a little kink, a little Achilles heel in our relationship that I'm so grateful we looked at now, because that's not an Achilles heel in our relationship anymore, and that's wonderful. So that's all that I have to say.
That's all you have to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I wish I could go do the work for you. I always do. I wish I could go in and find the belief and help you through that process. But it truly is it's the same process all your women are going through.
Yeah. It's the same. This is what...
It's not different.
No, I mean, ladies, this is the opportunity for you as well. I know I have so many of you listening right now are like, man, if only my husband would do what Rob was doing, or if only my husband would listen to this podcast. But ladies, the relationship that you have with your spouse right now, the opportunity is still there for you to do all of this work. Rob has been doing so much work over the last 9 months, and I'm so grateful and I'm so proud of him. And it's been just as much work for me. Just as much stuff that's come up for him, I've had to deal with all my own stuff, and my clients have gotten a front row seat to all of it. And they've watched me, and I've shared things that I have uncovered, my own beliefs, my own, things that I've been believing since childhood. What I make all of Rob's thoughts mean about me. You guys know this, in the same way that you take your husband's pornography addiction, his pornography problem, and you make it mean something about you and all the thoughts you have about it and what you make it mean. Same thing. All those thoughts that you have about your husband being attracted to other women, or if he has a desire for an affair, or fantasizing about other women, those thoughts that come up for you, those emotions that you feel, they're all connected to a root. And when you go in and you uncover that and you work through it, there is a connection that can be available to you right now with your spouse, even if he doesn't change anything. That is available to you. The tools are the same, whether we're applying them to him or we're applying them to you. And that's the beauty of all of this.
I would say it just brings a freedom, right?
Absolutely.
That freedom, again, to choose, the freedom to have your emotions be more under your control. And then if you want to choose after to create more of that connection, you're allowed to, you're able to. But it's still a choice, even at that point.
Absolutely.
It's your choice. But it brings the freedom to be how you want to be, to show up how you want to show up, to be the spouse you want to be, not the spouse that you look at and say, why am I doing it that way? Why am I angry? Why am I yelling? Why am I showing up this way? Why am I saying these things? That's not me, right? Have you ever had that experience where you do something and you're like, why did I do that? That's not who I am. That's not who I want to be. It brings that freedom back. So then when you show up, it's authentically how you are choosing. It's not the responding version of you. It's not the person that does the action and then you say, man, I don't even know who that was. Why did I, act that way? You can stop questioning that, because you can see it and you can choose it and act exactly how you choose, and that's the freedom. So
yeah, I'm sure we'll talk on more podcast episodes all about this, but we just wanted to share that with you guys and share what we've been working through. And I just wanted to offer to all of you ladies that you're not alone in this. I was talking to one of my clients this week, and she hasn't been on a coaching call in a while. And she said, I am surprised how much I miss it. She's like, I never really thought that I would really enjoy having, a community like that. She said, but even just logging onto the calls and being in that virtual room with all of these women is so comforting. And I just want to offer, ladies, that everything that you're going through right now, you are not by yourself. You're not alone. And if you feel alone and your brain is convinced that you're alone, then I want to offer something to the contrary. And I want to offer that you come join my group so that you can see that you're not by yourself and start working through all of this so that you don't have to stay where you are emotionally, and your marriage doesn't have to stay where it is right now.
Come be a part of it.
Yeah. All right, ladies. I love you. Thank you, Rob. We'll see you next week. Take care. All right, ladies, it's time to rise up and take charge of your healing, and I have the best way for you to do it. I have created a lifetime access coaching program that I have designed specifically for you and exactly what you're going through right now. This is where I help you develop a personal mastery of all the tools that you're learning here on the podcast in order for you to create a permanent change. Go to my website, jolenewynn.com. You will find all the information there, and you can sign up today, and we will start going forward. I can't wait to see you there.